Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Asad Yaqub and now I'm going to show you some trends and then we will convert those trends into paragraphs, into the language, right? Now what you need to observe, these are all line graphs which I'm going to show you right now. So you got to see how if something is going up, what sort of language do you need? If there is the fluctuation, if something is coming down, what sort of language do you have to use? So let's take a start. We've got x-axis. On x-axis we've got January, February, March, April, all the 12 months, right? So it means the data is of the year. It's the yearly thing. And then we've got two lines. One is dotted line and one is continuous line. So dotted line is exports and the other continuous line is imports. And which graph is it? It's the line graph, exactly. And remember one thing, this line graph can be converted into a bar chart as well. It can be converted if you just draw the bars and it will become a bar chart, okay? So from bar chart we can make the line graph and from line graph we can make the bar chart. Now let's see. On y-axis they have not given any values. So we'll just only see whether the trend is increasing or decreasing or fluctuating or whatever. Cars. Imports rose steadily. Now please observe carefully. Rose is the second form of rise. It's the verb and steadily is the adverb. Remember I was telling you in the last few videos, I was telling you a verb adverb phrase. This is verb adverb. Rose steadily. During the first half of the year. Now what does it mean, first half of the year?
First days of the year.
Till June. The first 6 months of the year. Exactly. While exports declined slightly. Now you can see exports, dotted line, and they declined slightly. Can you see that slight decline? Now declined is verb and slightly is adverb. With verb we use adverb, okay, and with noun we use adjective. From July onwards, both imports and exports remained reasonably steady. Reasonably, it's adverb, right? So they remained steady. Although exports fluctuated slightly. Can you see that? Dotted line exports, they fluctuated slightly towards the end of the year. Clear? Alright, good. Now let's go ahead. The next commodity is coal. And again we got the same imports and exports. Imports rose sharply. You can put your pencil on imports. Imports rose sharply. Can you see that? Sharply means swiftly, quickly. Imports rose sharply from January until the end of June. Can you see that? Until the end of June, while exports increased only slightly. Got it? Slight increase. Now this thing increased slightly, sharply. This is very, very important for report writing, especially when they give you bar chart, flow chart and these type of things. In the second half of the year, exports declined. Decline means came down. Declined, but imports continued to rise. Not leveling off until the end of the year. Level off means to reach at a certain point and stay there. Not leveling off until the end of the year. At the end they leveled off. Means they reached, they stopped there. They reached at a point and then they stopped. Showed consistency, that's right. Clear? Now the next one is oil. We got the next trend that is about oil, imports and exports. After a short period of fluctuation, can you see in imports a short period of fluctuation? After a short period of fluctuation, imports rose steadily throughout the year. Now you can see imports, they rose steadily throughout the year. Climb, exactly, you can say that. Exports on the other hand declined dramatically, right? The words like dramatically, declined dramatically, although they recovered slightly. Now can you see at the end? They recovered slightly towards the end of the year. Now see, there is no difficult word of vocabulary. It's basically a sort of a mind game to observe a trend and then to convert it in such type of sentences. Next is wheat. So you can see the graph about wheat. Both imports and exports fluctuated in the first half of the year. Can you see that? Yes. Both imports and exports fluctuated in the first half of the year. From July onwards, imports rose steadily. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
July onwards, imports rose steadily while exports continued to fluctuate until October. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Until the month of October, exports continue to fluctuate when they suddenly began to fall. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Exports suddenly began to fall, and before that they fluctuated. Okay, let's go ahead. The next one is electric goods. Electric goods. So we can see what are the trends here. Exports fell dramatically in the first half of the year. Got it? The first half of the year means the first 6 months. So exports fell dramatically in the first half of the year, but recovered slightly. Now if you don't write slightly, we are not sure because you're writing a report. So these words, dramatically, slightly, swiftly, quickly, they are important. And remained stable from late October onwards. Late October means end of October. Imports fluctuated. Can you see imports?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they've got the fluctuation, especially in the first 3 months of the year, or you can also say in the first quarter of the year. But the general trend was upwards. Although there was fluctuation, but the general trend was upwards. Okay, textiles. Imports increased slightly during the first 6 months. Can you see that? Imports increased slightly during the first 6 months of the year, then fluctuated before starting to fall sharply in October.
Yes, sir.
So fluctuation, and then they fell sharply. And by the way, this is not the definite language. You can use some other words also. For example, here I said imports increased slightly. You can say imports went up minimally, right? Like that you can say. Exports, however, remained reasonably stable. However means it's the reverse one. It's the opposite one. So exports, however, remained reasonably stable throughout the year. Steel. Next is steel. Imports rose steadily. Steadily means they were going up without any break, without any hurdle. Imports rose steadily until the end of June, then leveled off. Leveled off again means they reached a level and they stayed there. Exports fell dramatically throughout the first half of the year. Exports fell dramatically throughout the first half of the year, and you can see that. They recovered in July but started to fall again. Recovered and then started to fall again towards the end of the year. Fruit and vegetables, the last one. Imports rose sharply. About fruit and vegetables, imports rose sharply, fell back slightly, and you need to observe the use of comma and all that stuff, punctuation. Imports rose sharply, fell back slightly, then reached a new peak in July. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, rose sharply, fell back, and again. From then onwards, they declined steadily. Alright, from then onwards they declined steadily. Exports remained stable for most of the year. Now you can see the stability of exports. They remained stable
Yes, sir.
most of the year, but declined slightly from November onwards. Okay, bottled water. Now we got imports and exports. Exports were stable throughout the first half of the year. Yeah, exports were stable throughout the first half of the year, then declined gradually until November. Okay, till November, until November, when they began to recover slightly. Imports increased. Now we can see imports, they increased until late July, leveled off, then rose very slightly at the end of the year. Next is computers. After a slow start, imports began to rise dramatically. Can you see that? After a slow start, imports began to rise dramatically, comma, reaching a peak in July. So they reached a peak in the month of July. Okay, they declined steadily, and exports, from then onwards, they declined steadily. Exports fluctuated throughout the year. Now you can see that exports, they are fluctuating, but actually the overall trend is upward or downward? Downward. but the general trend was downward. General means overall. Overall trend was downward, or if it is upward, you will write upward. Timber. Timber means wood. Timber. Imports fell slightly. You can see imports fell slightly. Yeah, in the beginning. At the beginning of the year, right. Imports fell slightly at the beginning of the year, but then began to rise dramatically. And then there is comma. Sharply, why not? You can say swiftly, sharply. Not showing down until the final quarter of the year. Not slowing down. They did not slow down until the final quarter of the year. Final quarter means the last 3 months. That's right. Exports were stable until July. Right? Exports, they were stable until July, comma, then enter. Why comma? Because then the next part of the sentence. Then entered a period of fluctuation which lasted for the rest of the year. Period of fluctuation lasted for the rest of the year. Paper, last one. Imports increased steadily until July. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Imports, yeah, they increased steadily until July, comma, then declined gradually for the rest of the year. They declined gradually. As they inclined, then they declined. Exports fell sharply at the beginning of the year. Got it?
Yes,
But recovered, and from June onwards were reasonably stable. So they are reasonably stable. That's it. So this is all about report writing. Now there is only one thing which is left, and that is practice.
Yes, sir.
There is nothing else. And let me tell you one thing, more you practice, you're going to be better at that. And then through practice, I mean, you guys did mathematics,
Yes, sir.
right? Sometimes you solved one exercise and then you understood that question, and your teacher gave you another question from the same exercise, and you were solving it, you were enjoying it, and you knew the formula, you knew all the things and all that. So this is like that. You write one report, you write another report, you write another report, and then you're so happy. You try to pick up the things to write a report. Even you can find the things from the financial newspaper as well, or the business page of any English newspaper. The fluctuation in currency rate, the fluctuation in commodities, or the fluctuation in petrol prices. In our country, like we are an agricultural country, so we got the commodities like wheat, cotton, corn, and some other. So there can be the fluctuation in the price and all that. So you can find something even from the newspaper or magazine and try to write a report as
This
well.
type of, so this type of graph we can see in a cricket match.
In cricket matches also, yeah.
A team is in 1 per over.
Yeah.
Actually scored that.
That's
and,
right. We can
use the graph of 100 index of Karachi 100 index.
Karachi Stock Exchange, that's a very good idea. Stock Exchange. So you can find it all in financial newspaper, business newspaper, and you can just write
Or
it.
even find that on on internet.
Internet also, you can find that on internet. So it's a very good idea if you want to improve your report writing skill for bar charts and line graph and all that. For that, the business newspaper is going to be a very good idea, right? Okay, that's all from my side. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best, and I wish you good luck with your IELTS preparation.